Disrupting the Victory Day parade. Ukrainian drones paralyze Moscow airspace for 3 days in a row. Ukrainian drones caused massive disruptions at Moscow airports days before Russia's Victory Day parade on Friday. At least 60,000 people had their trips delayed or cancelled, with around 350 flights reportedly affected. A slew of flight delays and diversions at Moscow airports affected thousands of travelers, yet again on Wednesday, following another Ukrainian drone attack. Days before the Victory Day parade in the Russian capital, one of the largest public holidays and the most important events for President Vladimir Putin, chaos in Moscow's airspace persisted for the third day in a row. According to the Association of Russia's tour operators, some airports have been closed, while around 350 flights have been reportedly affected. At least 60,000 passengers have experienced disruption, with many of them left stuck on board planes for several hours. Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency also warned of flight delays across central Russia due to the late arrival of aircraft at the initial airports of destination. For a third consecutive day, Russian authorities report downing Ukrainian drones approaching Moscow, disrupting aviation in the region. Russian outlets claim that a Ukrainian drone attack caused a collapse at airports in the Moscow region, forcing airlines to delay departures or divert planes elsewhere. Among those affected is Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić. His plane was reportedly forced to divert to the Azerbaijani capital of Baku because of the threats in Russian airspace. According to Serbian state news agency Tanjug, his flight to Moscow to attend the parade was disrupted by what the agency calls active hostilities between Russia and Ukraine. Brussels issued a stark warning to the Serbian leader a few days ago, indicating that Vučić's visit would violate EU membership criteria and potentially hurt Serbia's accession process to the 27-member bloc. Earlier, Serbian newspaper Novosti reported that Lithuania and Latvia have denied a flight with Vučić on board from crossing their airspace en route to Moscow for the Victory Day parade on Friday, citing political, technical, and diplomatic sensitivity. The same outlet also reported that Poland and Lithuania had denied flyover rights to Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, raising similar concerns. His attendance remains uncertain at this point. Estonia also said it would not allow the aircraft carrying leaders heading to the Victory Day parade in Moscow to pass through its airspace. Estonia does not intend to support the event in any way, Foreign Minister Margus Tsakna said. We have stressed to our European Union colleagues that as Russia is a country that launched and continues a war in Europe, participation in propaganda events organized by them should be ruled out. In an effort to protect and secure the parade, Putin announced a unilateral truce from Thursday to midnight on Sunday. The Kremlin announced the measure on April 28, claiming all military actions would halt during that period and urging Ukraine to follow this example. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky dismissed the proposal as a theatrical performance designed to reduce Russia's international isolation and secure favorable conditions for Moscow's Victory Day events on Friday. He also said that Ukraine could not guarantee the safety of foreign officials planning to attend Victory Day events in Russia. On Wednesday, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Russia's unilateral ceasefire during the Victory Day celebrations remains in place and will run from midnight from 8 to May 11th. Overnight on Wednesday, Russia launched a massive missile and drone attack on Kyiv, killing 2 people and injuring 8 others, including 4 children, officials reported. Ukrainian drones keep targeting Moscow as Red Square parade draws foreign leaders. Attacks by Ukrainian long-range drones caused flight disruption at Moscow's main airports for a third straight day on Wednesday, authorities said, as Russia prepared to receive the Chinese president and other foreign leaders for the annual Victory Day military parade in Red Square. Russian flag carrier Aeroflot canceled more than 100 flights to and from Moscow. More than 140 flights were delayed as Russian planes were repeatedly grounded, flight data showed, because of what officials described as the Ukrainian drone threat and amid heightened security measures around the Victory Day events. Russian air defenses repelled an attack by 9 drones close to the Russian capital, Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said. Though Ukrainian drones have targeted Moscow in the past, the sustained attacks appeared designed to disrupt preparations for the 80th anniversary celebrations marking victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. Russia's biggest secular holiday of the year. The repeated assaults could unnerve Russians, who have been told by President Vladimir Putin that the more than 3-year war with Ukraine is going well as potentially embarrass him in front of his illustrious guests. Security is expected to be tight at Friday's centerpiece parade. Foreign dignitaries, including Chinese President Xi Jinping and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, were due to arrive on Wednesday. Russia plans a unilateral 72-hour ceasefire to coincide with the celebrations in Moscow. In March, the United States proposed a 30-day truce in the war, which Ukraine accepted, but the Kremlin has held out for ceasefire terms more to its liking. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said last weekend that his country cannot provide security assurances to foreign officials planning to visit the Moscow events. Russia could stage provocations and later attempt to blame Ukraine, he said. Our position is very simple. We cannot take responsibility for what happens on the territory of the Russian Federation, he said. They are the ones providing your security, and we will not be offering any guarantees. Zelensky said that he had instructed Ukraine's foreign ministry to advise foreign delegations against visiting Russia during this period. Baltic countries Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which border Russia and its Kaliningrad exclave, plan to close their airspace to the planes carrying Serbia's and Slovakia's leaders to Moscow later this week for the celebrations out of safety concerns. Officials there said, who could deny that in such a quite active cyber background, that somebody will not use this as a possible provocation to create problems and risks for the flight of these people through the Republic of Lithuania, Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda said Wednesday. Flight restrictions across Russia because of Ukrainian drone threats, including temporary closures at airports in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Sochi, and elsewhere, affected at least 350 flights and at least 60,000 passengers, the Russian Tour Operators Association said. Russian public holidays in early May, including the days around Victory Day, is a popular time for many Russians to go on vacation and travel abroad. Xi's visit to Russia will be his third since the Kremlin launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Xi last visited in Moscow in March 2023 on a trip that offered an important political boost to Putin just days after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for the Russian leader on charges of alleged involvement in abductions of thousands of children from Ukraine. The Kremlin announced Tuesday that Putin will travel to China at the end of August and beginning of September. Since Russia's all-out invasion of its neighbor, Moscow has drawn closer to China as Western countries have sought to isolate Putin diplomatically. Russia has become increasingly dependent economically on China because of Western sanctions. Meanwhile, Russia launched a ballistic missile and a barrage of drones at Ukraine's capital before dawn on Wednesday, killing at least 2 people in apartment buildings, Ukrainian officials said. 8 people were also wounded in the attack, including 4 children, the Kyiv City Military Administration said in a post on Telegram. Russian planes also dropped 2 glide bombs on a village in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region, killing 2 women, Regional Governor Vadim Filishkin said. Russia launched a total of 4 ballistic missiles and 142 drones at Ukraine overnight, Zelensky said. At least one of the ballistic missiles and 28 drones were recorded in Kyiv's airspace, authorities said. Air Defense Forces shot down the missile and 11 drones. A 5-story residential building in the Shevchenkivsky district in the center of the capital was hit by drone debris, sparking a fire in several apartments where the victims were found, he said. 4 people, including 3 children, were hospitalized, while others received treatment on site. In the Sviatoshinsky district, a fire broke out across multiple upper-floor apartments of a 9-story building after an impact of drone debris, according to the Kyiv City Military Administration. 5 people were rescued from the blaze. Russia's war machine under attack. Arms plants. Airbases hit in Saransk, Tula. Drones hit key Russian defense plants in Saransk and Tula and struck 2 airbases hosting bombers, missiles, and fighter jets used in the war against Ukraine. Drones struck several Russian strategic defense industry facilities, including enterprises developing advanced weapons and military technology, according to Andriy Kovalenko, head of Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation. 2 Russian airfields were also targeted. The Shaikovka Air Base in Kaluga region, home to two 22M3 bombers and storage for missiles like the Kh-22, was hit. Another strike hit the Kubinka Air Base near Moscow, which hosts Su-27 and MiG-29 fighter jets. The pro-war Telegram channel flight bomber also acknowledged the strike on Kubinka, noting that the attack hit areas where personnel and equipment involved in parade preparations were stationed. However, according to the channel, it supposedly won't affect the aerial portion of the event. In Saransk, Republic of Mordovia, located over 550 kilometers from Ukraine, a drone strike hit a plant that produces fiber optic systems, a key component of Russia's defense industry connected to modern military communications. The plant specializes in manufacturing cables and communication systems for the Russian army, including for drones operating via fiber optic links, Kovalenko said on the morning of Wednesday, May 7th. The strike on the plant was also confirmed by the Russian Telegram channel Astra, which reported, citing eyewitnesses, that another building several kilometers from the facility was on fire. According to Astra, just a few kilometers from the optic fiber systems plant are the Saransk mechanical plant and Saranska Beloptica, which may have been the targets of a second strike. AO Optic Fiber Systems is the first and currently only factory in Russia producing optical fiber. It is located in Saransk, Republic of Mordovia, according to the company's website. Ukrainian Interior Ministry advisor Anton Gashenko had previously noted that the plant manufactures fiber optic cables used to control drones during the war against Ukraine. This facility was already targeted in an earlier attack in early April. In Tula, located about 450 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, another strike hit one of the key enterprises of Russia's military-industrial complex, the Instrument Design Bureau. This facility develops modern weapons, including anti-tank missile systems, firearms, and combat modules, which are actively used by Russian forces in the war against Ukraine. Another target in Tula was the SPLAV plant, Russia's leading developer of multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS. This is where the Grads, Uragans, and Smerches are made, weapons widely used against Ukrainian cities and on the battlefield. The enterprise is closely linked to the Rostec defense conglomerate and remains one of Russia's top priority arms manufacturers, Kovalenko said. As a result of air defense operations over the Tula region, 4 drones were destroyed. Emergency services continue to work at the scene. Air defense systems remain on high alert and are now repelling the 5th wave of drone attacks, said Dmitry Milyev, governor of the Tula region. The situation is under control. Canada moves to give Ukraine stranded Russian cargo plane. Canada is moving forward with a legal bid to gain full possession of a Russian Antonov An-124 cargo plane and potentially hand it over to Ukraine, the country's foreign ministry has said. The Antonov An-124, the world's largest mass-produced cargo aircraft, has been stranded at Toronto Pearson International Airport for over 3 years due to airspace restrictions that Canada imposed due to the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The Attorney General of Canada commenced forfeiture proceedings by seeking the issuance of a notice of application by the Superior Court of Ontario on March 18, 2025. A spokesperson for Global Affairs Canada told the Ontario-based news outlet Insaga. The Antonov An-124 is one of 26 aircraft of its type in the world. Roughly the height of a 7-story building and nearly the length of a football field, it is owned by Volga-Dnepr Airlines, a private Russian cargo carrier, and is valued at approximately $300 million. The plane had been transporting a shipment of COVID-19 test kits from China to Canada when Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Ottawa closed its airspace to Russian airlines 3 days later, while the plane was still unloading its cargo in Toronto. Canadian authorities formally seized the aircraft in June 2023. At the time, then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that the aircraft would soon be delivered to Kiev so it could never be used by Russia again. Ownership of the plane has since been tied up in an ongoing legal battle, with Volga-Dnepr filing lawsuits in Canada in a bid to stop the confiscation. The Russian Foreign Ministry has called the seizure of the plane cynical and shameless theft. Volga-Dnepr founder Alexei Isakin, a former military economist, built the company into a global leader in oversized cargo transport using the Antonov and An-124 in the 1990s. He was sanctioned by the US, Canada, and the UK following the invasion of Ukraine. Ownership of the airline has since passed to senior executives Igor Aksionov, Valery Gabriel, Sergei Dyakov, and Vildan Zinurov.